And people used to say early on, influencers are so inauthentic. I'm like, fuck off. We grew up with hot models skinny dipping, drinking Pepsi. And look, I think about him a lot, like far more than I would like to admit, you know, like, and I try not to cry.
Maybe pull that out.
The gyrating, don't pull anything out while I'm wearing arseless chaps on stage in Vegas with Thunder from Down Under.
That's the most bizarre 5 minutes in the history of the dos&d show, and that's saying something.
I'll tell you what, mate.
What?
I'm really looking forward to this one.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's going to be a bit more, I guess, shits and giggles, I think the term was used before.
Yeah.
But the great man, Jules Lund, has joined us. Jules,
Yes,
welcome.
Jules.
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Well, I assume you're gentlemen.
Yeah.
We'll soon find out.
You assumed correctly. Yeah.
Well, it's funny, Jules. We're watching a few of your highlights prior to you coming in, and the boys were wrapped around. I'll tell you what, you got 5 blokes here all in their 20s that were just enamored by your good looks.
Oh, thank
so
you.
everyone was,
Great.
Sammy couldn't get enough. Which,
You said were.
nothing's changed. But one thing we wanted to bring up right off the start, Jules, is when we invite guests on the show, we always say, what would it take? You know, that's a question we like to ask. What would it take? And then we can find out. Is it $500,000? What is it?
For what?
Yeah. But
is that why there's a hole in that sheet?
But we got an answer from you. You may not even remember that was a first, and that was just simply. Do you remember?
Hang on a second, because this has been like organising something through COVID times without the pandemic.
Yeah.
So what was the
So it was, hi Jules, we're big fans. We'd absolutely love to welcome you on the show. What would it take to make it happen? And it was just 3 words. First word was A, and it was just a blowjob.
That's 2 words, dickhead.
A blowjob. Oh, is blowjob 1 or 2?
Well, look, we don't want to.
We don't need a half on
that.
Let's
go to the survey.
Yeah. So it's the first time we'd been asked that request, but I think we're willing to.
Gentlemen, with all due respect, when I turned up, there were 5 blokes. I think I didn't
Down an alleyway.
You assume it was from you. I now know what it would take for you to get a guess.
We'll say no more. But
This is South Melbourne.
I know.
There's things named after Marvel and DC. There's Gotham City. Anyway, you do the Googling.
Well, anyway, we're, in all seriousness, we're very excited to have you here. So thank you so much for giving us some time. You're a very busy man, and there's a lot we want to chat with you about. But we were talking off air how we're going to kind of roll with this interview. But we want to start with the TV and radio, Jules Lund.
Okay.
Because that really fascinates us. So you were just talking to us about the blackout.
Yeah, the blackout challenge.
Blackout challenge. For those that may not be aware, what was the blackout challenge?
Oh, I miss it. It was the jewel in my radio. I was about to say crown, but the experience was amazing. So when I first got into radio, one of the things that I was stumped by was that you'd do these amazing stunts and then you wouldn't be filming it or taking photos. And so I was like, right, let's just capture this stuff. And so while we were doing radio, it was like, what's our segment? And I actually think we ripped it from Kyle and Jackie O. They did it as a once-off. And we called it the Blackout Challenge. It's basically Fifi, Box and I, and Byron Cook, who was our anchor, would sort of take turns, but, they were very happy for me to sort of hog it, which was to be blindfolded and then put into a confronting situation to see if you could sink or swim. It was like, thank God you're here, but no actors. It was just real life. And so, one of the times lifted the blindfold and I was on Australia's Got Talent, like full audience, TV cameras, Kyle, the whole judges.
Do you remember what you had to do?
Oh, I think it might have been singing Islands in the Stream by Kenny Loggins.
Of course it was.
And Dolly. But another time I was blindfolded, did some travelling, kept it on for about 8 hours. And when I lifted it up, there was a voice saying, Jules Lund, welcome to the diary room. And I was in Big Brother house and they just left me there for days. I had no idea how long I was going to be there for. And there's moments where you think you're having a psychotic episode.
Yeah.
And then other times, like Fifi Box, good sport, lifts it up, and there's a woman lying there with her legs spread, getting, wanting to get a bikini wax.
I just find that so ridiculous.
Yeah. It was absurd.
Yeah.
But and there was hundreds like that. Scary, happy. I did a comedy show once in Carlton, and there was a full audience, and I had to do a routine very quickly, which is probably good because if I had to prepare that, I'd be terrified.
Yeah.
Whereas thrown in the situation, I was sort of half funny, but it was they were good days. I loved them.
Well, straight away, as soon as you walked in, and we knew this, obviously listening to a couple of episodes of you elsewhere, you said on those, your personality across radio has always been, I think the term you used was jousting. Like straight away, it's the giving shit, taking shit, giving shit, taking shit. Yeah. Straight away you walked in and it was like, well, that's exactly what he just said he is.
Yeah.
How have you kind of been since leaving radio and now transitioning into like, I guess, the business end? Is it coming and doing something that's a bit refreshing, being able to do that again?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
1,000%. You can't do that with young students that are coming into a marketing role. No, and trust me, I learned that the hard way. It's funny. I always, and this is why I don't drink or get drunk anymore, is because I go for the biggest shock comment, and it just doesn't always, it's never welcomed actually, but sometimes it's tolerated.
Yeah, I was a gorilla apparently before. Just Jules was giving this one,
Yeah, Dos couldn't figure out how to open a bar fridge, and he was just hitting it like an orangutan would until he realised you could slide it. And watching him I was like, fuck, I hope you're not the smart one.
And we could
Because
probably
if you're
say
the smart one, I can't wait to hear what D has to contribute.
D is the more sophisticated type.
I don't know about that.
Who's smarter out of you two?
You would be, I reckon.
Depends how you quantify intelligence, Jules.
Yeah, that's a good.
Where do you?
All right, so there's a bar fridge.
Yeah.
And on one side is the water that you want. Could you have passed that test,
I thought it was a door that pulled out.
I can't pass that test. But I don't. Look, Jules, as you'll probably learn, we're probably not going to solve any world problems in the next hour or so, but
I think we're safe.
Not if it's a drought.
Oh, my God. I just want to go back to that. You made a comment about you learnt the hard way. I don't know how much that was in jest, but in all seriousness, have you had to tone things down a little bit hearing a bit about your backstory and how you were at school and translating into the career in TV and radio and being the entertainer versus being the boss. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, I have a really incredible executive team, and more particularly, I have a CEO, Anthony Sferskus, who is the complete opposite to me, and he's absolutely brilliant, but super conservative. And when we both met, we couldn't have been polar opposites. So, he would have been the prefect at school, footy captain, but just super straight, and then I was straight out of shock jock type radio, where I was affirmed and paid millions of bucks over the years to hang shit on people and drop clangers. And so over the years, the last sort of 10 years, I have realised and seen things through his eyes, where it's not always appropriate to do that. And in fact, as I say before, there's not many environments where it is ever appropriate, except in my family, because my father is horrific, filthy, you name it, just all of the gags. It's just so inappropriate, absolutely hilarious. So you just, people who shouldn't be laughing are still in fits of laughter, then self-loathing.
They're realising what he just said.
Yeah. So, Ant made me sort of more mature, and I made him more emotional and playful. And so that's been a really good thing. But no, absolutely. He's had to pull me in line a lot. And I felt humiliated and ashamed and, would fight it for many years in many ways until I started to really get it. And so I can hopefully turn it on and off unless I'm drunk. And then I can't. And that's sort of like, you know what, I can't wake up again going, oh, I really shouldn't have said that. Because what you're alluding to, that jousting, is I love that, like hanging shit on people. But if they're not in the mood, it's actually just called bullying.
Yeah.
And so,
Yeah, it is. It is, Jules, and that's how I feel.
I'm sorry about that.
No, I'm taking the piss. But in terms of radio, Fifi and yourself, you obviously had that chemistry.
Yeah.
When we talk chemistry, how does it go when picking two people to do something like that job?
Oh, yeah.
Like, was that specifically designed for you two? Oh, these two will get along well.
Yeah, well, I'd appeared a lot on her radio shows prior to that.
Okay.
And I actually think at the base of it, there's love. You know, you've really got to want to make the other person shine, and you know, want to celebrate them. And all the idiosyncrasies and the madness, I think, was always the best thing about Fifi. You know, she was just so colourful. And I was a support role, you know, like because she was just endlessly and effortlessly entertaining. And so I would sort of sit there, you know, wanting to at least create some of those things. And then, you know, she would know what would light my fire. And so she would lean into those things and allow me to do stupid stuff as well. But in terms of chemistry, there's got to be a really healthy respect. You can't be competitive. You know, being competitive just doesn't work.
Yeah.
Sounds like we're at Moomba.
Is that?
Is that like the voice of a carny?
I don't know what's going on. I was thinking the same thing. That's totally bizarre.
Sammy, do you mind sticking your head out there and seeing what that is? Yeah. And maybe asking them to turn it off?
But do it with some balls. Like, for fuck's sake. Yeah, I just realised that it feels like I'm about to pop.
Jesus. What is going on? It's a full-blown rave out there. I'm a bit worried for Sammy. I don't know if he'll...
Yeah,
Is
Bryce might have...
Rob Whittaker about to come loose? Is a junkie with a backpack and a speaker and going, he would be more entertaining. Have you got another chair? I'll tell him.
Do you want me to deal with it?
Yeah.
But just record it. I mean, come on, this is the good stuff. Get your iPhone on.
Go on, Sammy.
Go on, baby.
Yeah. See the speaker on the backpack?
Yeah.
Oh no. Oh no. You're such a little bit. Lovely.
This isn't our venue, obviously. We just rented it out. Oh, fuck. Jeez.
I mean, where your brain goes trying to figure out what it could be, wouldn't have guessed that.
I mean,
you could have guessed
it.
it.
Had to be the tradies. You know, like,
Oh, I just thought it was like a painter's car. They've pulled up and the music's blaring, and it's usually Triple M.
Are we still rolling? Is everything rolling? All right.
yeah.
All right, so I'm going to just welcome everybody back. That's the most bizarre 5 minutes in the history of the dos&d show, and that's saying something.
That was a blackout challenge.
Thank God we had you
I
here
do
for
think
that.
we had the perfect guest for that
we did.
situation.
We might have to get
God.
that footage and show everyone what just happened.
And
'cause-
cheap crystal meth I thought he was selling. That's cheap, don't you think?
Yeah, very.
Oh, well, I was about to ask a serious question, but
I think you
no, I
move
think I'll show you.
I like all serious questions to be scored by bad electro dance.
Yeah.
And the speaker was so bad. Do you now know what I mean by are we at Moomba? Because the carnies have those horrific terrific sound systems.
They have a rattle.
That are waterproof.
Yeah.
And that sounded so bad. It was perfectly calming.
I don't know if I should apologise to Jules or not. 'Cause
Oh,
that was
I
just
know.
bizarre. Anyway,
Mate, we're in South Melbourne. I've been here before. That guy going down a one-way, like trying to break into cars with that sound system.
He's not your MD at Tribe, is he?
I actually think my
very
van's
stealthy.
unlocked, so that's a bit of a concern.
Now we know why there's such serious alarms around this building.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, he could be your new marketing director at Tribe.
Yeah.
If you ask. Anyway,
Happy.
I was
I
going to
mean-
ask you a question because I am interested in this, and we mentioned off air. We had the pleasure of sitting down with Howie last week and had a great chat to him, and he talked about saying yes, the say yes theory, and we had a look at some of the stuff you've done on TV throughout the years and radio. Are you a believer in say yes, work it out later kind of thing?
I was until I burnt out.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, I mean, I remember when I was really busy with work, when you're in the public eye, you certainly can't always live by yes. I mean, you can from opportunities, but you'll be amazed at how many favours you get asked. And if you do it all, you actually can lose, a huge portion of your life that should be protected for friends and family.
Yep.
So, for instance, even your social life, if you go out with your friends to a pub, you can very easily give the entire night to other people, because you're being generous. You don't want to be seen as an arrogant dick, and you can just not ever spend time with your friends, even in that environment. And so, if you then say yes to every charity event, every post, every MC, then you can't. And so, what you're actually trying to perfect is being able to politely say no. Mm-hmm. Now, in terms of life experience, though, when I was in COVID, and like all of us, and you feel restricted from doing the things that you took for granted you could always do, especially travel. And, I started to approach the age that, my mentor, Jim Stynes, passed away at 45. And then my mum actually got really sick with COVID, fell over, broke a hip, and she was already sort of having the early stages of dementia. She went into a hospital and never came home, and she's now in aged care. And, that was 3 years ago, and I went, shit, she was only, at the time, 72. And,
Wow.
That's that's super young. That's super young. So I started to panic, and I went, all right, I'm going to say yes to everything. And it was like every concert and, every festival, or, everything that I could, catch up with friends and relationships. And I just started to do it all and, travel the globe with work, because I wanted to push that and to its extreme. That's when I went, well, actually, alcohol's not really working for me, not from a health perspective, just from a behavioural point of view. And then I started to get my weekends back. And I went, I've actually got about 15 to 20% extra capacity here to invest in something. And then I started doing sort of marathons and ultra, adventure races. And then I did, I think it was this time last year, I did the Melbourne Marathon with almost no training. And then I got tired, and then I never really recovered. And so I just sort of blown out all of my bulbs. I was tired, but fueling myself on adrenaline and on caffeine and on sugar. And so rather than listening to my body, I was, outcome focused, because it was like, I want to have these experiences quickly because shit could stop at any point. So much so that my desire to do everything meant that I could no longer do anything. And so I've actually been in a period of adrenal fatigue after 20 years of, shark diving and hot air ballooning.
Celebrities on ice.
Yeah, celebrities on ice, all of the humiliating moments too. I've done so much, and it was always about sort of getting that thrill. And ironically, through that same period, which is probably not responsible, I was like, I'm in COVID and I'm numb. Fuck, maybe I'll just, get my license in sports skydiving. And so I started to skydive for sort of 18 months. And again, I was just dialing up my adrenaline.
Yeah.
I couldn't just go for a light jog with a friend and then have a latte afterwards. I was like driving by myself down to, funnily enough, with Egg Boy. Will Connolly.
Yeah.
So he was a kid that I just loved his attitude and sort of helped through some years, and just tried to really bring his story to light. And no one was willing to do it with me, and I asked everyone. So I ended up asking Will, and he said, "I'll do it." And I said, "I'll shout you." And so me and him used to drive down to Torquay and throw ourselves out of planes because he was, mental enough to do it. And so so now I've said yes to everything, and I've overspent more energy than I had until I had no energy. And now I have to go, wow, where I invest my energy has to be really considered for the first time in my life, because I can't actually get through a normal day. Not that there's chronic fatigue, but it would certainly have parallels to it where you're just absolutely flawed. So I had to have a coffee to be able to get here, and this is all I'm doing today. And I've been off work actually for a few months.
Wow.
Yeah, well, I know, it said it in your emails.
Yeah,
so
and the reason I've been pushing this back is because physically and emotionally and mentally I couldn't get there. And purely because I said yes to everything.
Now, this episode with Jules is an absolute cracker.
I love it.
But you know what's even more of a cracker?
What's that?
Chris West, who runs Fleet Plan Hire Solutions.
Yeah, absolutely.
FBH, they are the best in the business. They are the number one for everything earth-moving equipment.
I just want you to, think about the biggest projects that get done in this country.
The first thing I think of is government jobs.
Oh, yeah.
Think of all the earth moving that needs to be done across all the roads and all the biggest projects across Victoria.
They only call one company, and that's Fleet Plan Hire Solutions. And you can go and visit FBH right now at fbh.com.au.
I'm genuinely concerned that bloke's trying to break into my car right now.
Nah, not your shit box. Mine's out there.
Is it?
Yeah, I should be worried.
Oh, all right. Well, that's a relief then. Thanks,
No, I'm
Jules.
joking.
God. Fuck, now I've lost my train of thought. Fuck.
Well, while
Jesus.
you get that,
Sorry, mate.
and I don't want to move too fast, but so Sammy, can you get that video up? Because we want to give the viewers and the listeners a bit of an example here of Jules's work.
Tell you what, there's one, when doing some guest research, there was so much out there on you. Good things, like just so much content, so much stuff to watch, which made it so much easier.
Well, we'd love to see what kind of memories these. We'll play about 30 or 40 seconds of this, but this is just a bit of a mashup of some of your career highlights, and just again, it goes back to saying yes, but it's just interesting to see all the situations you've been in. That
what
sounded
else?
horrible.
Explain why I hosted a show called Hole in the Wall, which similarly has places around here named after it.
Yeah, I just got that.
And others.
Hole in the Wall, where contestants earn our respect by donning stupid suits and being smacked by a wall of styrofoam. Yeah, no, I can't
Where's the
believe
shirt
it either.
tuck?
Tonight, it's brains versus brawn. Let's meet our teams.
He's part maverick, part goose, willing to take the bull by the horns.
It's the first firecracker. They've just unleashed hell.
Oh,
Shoot. 1 minute they were like 50 metres away, and then bangers on top of me, swept me off my feet.
The charm,
That's great.
the cheek,
I've had some good ideas this year, but this is my best. Have you actually seen what a Logie looks like?
I haven't. No. Hopefully they look a little like you.
Well,
Look at the
there's a good
pause.
image to pause on.
I wouldn't pause it there. Wow. And I wouldn't unpause it and then pause it there again. Because
Maybe pull that out.
the gyrating, don't pull anything out while I'm wearing arseless chaps on stage in Vegas with Thunder from Down Under.
Well, again, just looking at, that's a very short sample. And that video, we've watched it multiple times. It's about 5 minutes. And there's just so much happening that there's a getaway. And it's just too much to even talk about. But just, do you ever reflect or watch back on some of this kind of stuff? And how do you feel now with years past looking back on it? Is it with fondness? Is it with...
Oh, yeah. No, I'd love to do it again. Ironically, in my head, I don't feel... Like, I'm 45, but, I feel 22.
Yeah.
Like, I look at that and I still feel like a lot of that is within access. if I want to, heat the iron back up. And that's the thing about maturity, where you got to strike while the iron's hot. It's not always the case. You feel that anxiety and FOMO, but if you have confidence within your own abilities, you got to believe that you can heat it up when you want. Might be arrogant, but I certainly knew that when I'd won this sort of radio competition when I was 22, and I got all these offers off the back of it, and Channel 9 said, all right, we'd love to offer you a year contract, which is exactly what I wanted at that age, but I hadn't done the hard yards. I actually hadn't mastered the craft of presenting. And so a bit like, I suppose, a Big Brother star, where you're thrust into the limelight and then you're given a show, you got to have due respect that, popularity is only one element of being a host or a broadcaster. You actually need sort of some of the skill. And so, I said no to that at the time, which was, more money than I'd ever imagined that I was going to be offered, which wasn't much. It was 25 grand, but it was still like, oh, shit. But they'd done this thing years ago where they would sort of just grab you so another network didn't. They called it warehousing, and they would sort of grab you and just sort of put you on the shelf for 25 grand. It's sort of like hedging their bets and insurance policy. And so you may not have actually got all the work they were promising you. Maybe I would have, but either way I went, look, I'm not ready. And so that's when I sort of set about doing my own 12-month curriculum, really. I did every short course I could for TV presenting, ran out of those around the country. Like, I was going up to NIDA, in Sydney. Then I started doing voiceover, started doing acting just to well-round it.
Wait, sorry, is this after 1 year of radio?
No, this is actually after 15 Days of Fame, which was 15 days.
Oh, so it was after that. Okay.
Yeah, it was just after a competition. Yeah. Basically, when I was 19, my best mate and I, when we went over the States backpacking, and I backpacked for about 8 months, rather than doing theme parks, we did talk shows. And so we would, like you guys, we were just young blokes, had nothing to lose. And, people would be sitting at home here in Australia, and we would be popping up, asking questions, getting in arguments with gigolos, proposing to a girl on Sally Jesse Raphael. The gigolo was on Jerry Springer. My mate won Common the Day on Ricky Lake. I went out to LA, making money, taking photos for Roseanne Barr because she set me on this little stunt that she was doing, Queen Latifah. They were just everywhere, right? And it was just fun, I remember seeing Jerry Springer going, holy shit, he's just laughing all the way to the bank. He's just casually just doing what he loves. And so I came back and said, I want to get into TV. But I was telling that story on radio. I just rang him up one day when I was running a life coaching workshop for the Reach Foundation. And I just rang him up and then did the workshop. I came back and they said, we want you to come down and do do an audition for this comp. And I didn't know what it was, but I ended up winning it, and then got a lot of great experience in 15 days. And then from that, I was offered some stuff. But that, to my point with you guys, the craft that you guys are perfecting now is far more important than the popularity. The popularity you can get in moments, right? But even with the popularity, perfecting conversation, being generous, filling the beats. When even I went back and I did radio for a bit, and then I went back after Getaway and replaced sort of Hamish and Andy with Fifi. And my best mate, who I'd brought in from the Reach Foundation years earlier, he was my boss now, and he was just like, yeah, it's going to take you about 18 months until you get into a groove. And I was like, every day for 18 months, like, what are you talking about? I do segments all the time. We laugh, we're good. And he was right. There is a rhythm to it. And that's why people can't put their finger on what Kyle and Jack does or what Hamish and Andy does. It's because they're doing their 10,000 hours. And that's what you guys are doing here. And you shouldn't take shortcuts, I don't think.
I love hearing you say that, because that's only probably something we really started believing maybe last year for ourselves, which was not that we were in a rush, but you kind of are looking over your shoulder a bit sometimes.
Yeah.
And which is just normal and natural.
You're comparing yourself.
And you want to grow, obviously, at a pace with others. But at the same time, what we're doing, it's like you're saying, it requires a lot more. I don't want to say nuances and skills, but we are doing something that's a bit more presenting type, not so much content creator type formats.
No, it's conditioning. You know, whatever you set your mind to, you got to do the work, right? And you know, it's like the gym. The hard thing about this stuff is you forget, because you can't measure it, you know, with a tape around your biceps, or you have a before and after. You just forget how far you've come. And, you know, that demotivates you. Like when you go to the gym and you can measure it because of your weight or whatever, or your, you know, body fat index or whatever it is, you can go, shit, I've actually come further than I thought. And that gets you excited. In this, your comparison there is go and listen to one of your first episodes and you'll vomit in your mouth.
Yeah,
you know,
worry. Yeah.
And I hope you do.
We absolutely do.
Yeah.
We wish we could delete them.
We vomit from 6 months ago.
Yeah. Well, that is huge motivation and pride, and you know, in another few months. So, and all of this is not what you get from it; it's who you become. And you guys will be, you know, and they say comparison is the thief of joy. When you start to compare yourselves to other people, and God help that you don't have people similar to you that, you know, you started off and they're flying, because that's a horrible feeling, right? But you do want people ahead of you that are paving the way and giving you inspiration.
Yeah.
But yeah, you want to believe that who you're becoming is far more important than, as I say, the rewards. You know, it's awesome what you're doing, and I've always believed that. And you know, success comes from the people you are when no one's looking, and that was what I always applied. You know, I'd have mates of mine that were shitty and jealous, and because they would see the rewards, but they never saw, you know, the compromises and the sacrifices. Because I did that. You know, I would do my own drills on TV presenting that were just ironing out fears or doubts or weaknesses, and I would just, you know, I would massage out those knots so that when it was time, I was agile enough to be able to kick ass.
Yeah.
And that takes, I mean, there's people that are just gifted. They're not the people you should compare yourself to, you know, because, and even the gifted ones I've always found take it for granted, and what they lose is the consistency and the hunger. And often, you know, like the tortoise and the hare, they're not the ones who finish the race.
Yeah. No, they're like, it's amazing just hearing that, because you're really speaking to us. And we've always said this too, like there's very few, for people that do make it through hard work, it's very few accidents, because a lot of us would look at someone, they might even look at you back in the day and go, he's a larrikin, he's a personality. But like you said, they don't see those hours and hours and hours and those anxieties, and they're ironing things out. You know, people, I always admire people that almost play almost like a dumber character. Like they almost, they're more, I don't know, bogan or dumb or whatever on TV. But they're incredibly, it's smart and it's driven and there's a plan and, you know, and there's drive there. But I'm interested on that. You going back to your like 15-year-old self, we've heard the story, you know, the impact Reach has had on you, and we'd love to talk about that. But as a kind of 15-year-old class clown larrikin, did you have ambition to go down this path? Was it a dream of yours?
Oh, no. Look, I was an attention seeker, so I always wanted, you know, fame and fortune like any dipshit. But, you know, no real steps to get there. You know, to navigate those takes, you know, I think outside assistance, you know, or you have an uncle or a father or someone's in the business, you know, where you can see it. But no, it felt miles away for me. I mean, even when I rang up that radio station, I didn't think I'd get through.
Yeah.
You know, and then you get through and then you realise, oh, shit, it's actually, those guys need content, you know. They need that.
So as a teenager, what did you want to do? It was a life plan.
As a teenager, I loved graffiti, so...
you would have fit in well with the junkie at the front.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I loved animals when I was younger, and so the sort of innocent boy within me, loved animals, and so there were years where I loved, the idea of being a vet or being around animals in some way, like many of us, and then I loved photography, and so I liked the arts, and then I liked drawing, and so it was sort of like something with art as well. But one of the dangers about school, and you guys will remember this, is you'd have a career counsellor, and you'd say, "Oh, look, I love animals," and they go, "Oh, do you want to be a zoologist or a vet?" And I love drawing. "Oh, do you want to be an architect or a graphic designer?" Like, it was sort of, and then you go, "Well, I don't want to be a vet because kill animals, like I'm killing these things, putting them out of their misery." And then a zoologist is really competitive. So what you can inadvertently do is put a line through the thing that makes you feel alive and has genuine interest, because it doesn't fit into some of the other things. Or I want to do art, graphic design, I don't want to have a desk job, in front of a computer. Whereas luckily I learned, just hang on to the passion and just move in that direction. It's usually enough for you to pick some subjects, because by the time you're at that age, there'll be a world of opportunity of different roles that didn't even exist then. And if it doesn't exist, just create it. And so having that confidence to create your own world, to drive some sort of, all you're trying to do is get a bit of money out of it. It's not as hard as you think. And so at that age, I had certain passions, but I actually followed graphic design all the way through. I didn't get in the first year. It was down at Paran at Swinburne. So I did a TAFE year, and then I got into the top graphic design course at the time, and within 6 months realised it wasn't for me. And, I remember saying to my parents, I'm going to leave after, having this sort of goal for a few years. At that age, a few years is a long time. And they said, you wasted all that. And I said, no, I haven't. I said, because I used that goal to swim to this island, and from this island I can see many other islands that I couldn't see back when I started swimming. And that was exactly the case. And like you guys know, with all education, it's actually not the content. It's learning how to learn. Yeah. It's learning how to discipline yourself and motivate yourself. And it's actually everything around that. Like this, in years to come, what will remain is not the episodes. You may or may not go back to them. You think you will, but you probably won't. It's just the fact that you guys, you stretched your realm. You've got a team here. You're committed. You haven't missed, an episode in all that time. Like, those things are what you carry on. And that's what I mean. It's not what you get, it's who you become. And I think that's critical.
Shit, that's island analogy. I wish I knew that at like 15, to be honest. Did you learn that from Jim?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jim used to ask a question and he'd go, right, how many of you could swim 15 kilometres? And no one would put their hand up, right? You say, okay, all right. Why? And they would say, because my back would hurt, my arms would, I'm not fit enough, and give all the excuses. You say, okay. So what happens if I dropped you in the ocean 15K from land, live or die, sink or swim? How many of you think you could swim 15K yet? Everyone's hand goes up. Why? What changed? Survival instincts kick in. I had to. Okay, no worries. You don't have to. Wave your hand, I'll pick you up in a chopper, but if you make it, I'll give you $1 million cash. How many of you think you could? Everyone's hand stays up. Okay, so what are we talking about here? So you can do that, right? Why? And it's like, because of the vision, the reward. Because when you're swimming for your life, or you're swimming for $1 million, for your life, you're thinking about your family, your friends. You've got that vision. That's your drive, right? And it is taking away your focus from the fact that your fucking lower back is killing, you're cramping, your arms are turned to... You're like, all of the pain, you're out of breath, whatever it is, because you're focused on that goal, right? And so that is the same with any goal setting, right? You got to want it bad enough, and it will overcome those things. But if you're just doing something just cause, it's pretty friggin' hard, because again, all you're focused on is the hard. Now, there is a flip to that, right? And I actually don't believe after all these years, and I've achieved some great goals, not many of them weren't written down. Like getting on Getaway, 24-year-old adventurous host. Like I was 23 and I said in a year I want to be the adventurous host on Getaway and had no path there. I wrote it in my journal and I set a path myself and I broke down every month, every week, every day and every hour into what I had to do to get there. And I got it within 8 months. And it was, you could absolutely, and there's a huge element of luck there. But as they say, luck is where opportunity meets preparation. Yeah. If I wasn't prepared, I wouldn't have been able to capitalise on the serendipity of having some opportunity. And so I've achieved some goals and I've always said it. There's plenty that I haven't achieved, like pecs. I can't grow pecs.
I was like, what? I was like, who is pecs?
Yeah, that fucking was elusive. I had to give up on that. Not enough testosterone. And then the other one is just, tribe. It's been 11 years. I've built this company. I don't know what I'll take away from it in the end. And, back to what you say, it's not what you get, it's what you become. It's transformed me as a human from a non-financial reward. Who I am now versus who I was then, you just couldn't put a price on it. I'm a better husband, a better leader, a better friend, a better father. It's been hugely humbling, and I've had to learn about sacrifice and stamina and resilience and leadership and empathy and all of those elements you just couldn't get anywhere else. But, sometimes being goal-orientated can really... you've got to be willing to just not give it everything. And you've got to want it. And here's the kicker with that swimming analogy of 15K. And sorry for not being funny enough, you dickheads. Because
no, mate, we're taking in every word.
You were hoping for shits and giggles.
No, this is good.
But I did pay my cousin to bring a stereo on his back.
Of course you fucking did.
I've at least contributed there. The old surprise junkie trick. I shouldn't call them junkies. They're ferals. So the swimming analogy is like your why, right? And look, I've had lots of whys in my past and, probably a big contributor has been ego. Wanting to be big and great and have impact and, and then, validation, which is also ego, prove to myself that I'm capable and, but going into tribe was an interesting one because, I'd come out of radio and, I'd had an instinct around how the market forces were going to move. And for those who don't know, tribe is basically, it was based, in an era where everyone's eyeballs were staring at social media. And I was working in TV and radio and, there was all these different mediums. I was like, no, that one's really special. But yet everyone applied the talent lens, which was, they're all celebrities. Go and get a footballer in social or whatever. And I'd be like, that footballer doesn't know how to create content, right? Get a content creator. Yes, you don't know who the fuck they are. They've got 3,000 followers and they've been posting for, 2 or 3 years, not knowing that they're going to get paid, just generously sharing their expertise of, passions, food or fashion or fitness. Get 30 of those for the price of that footballer, and then club that together. And the brands will say, well, I don't know how to navigate 30. And I go, I'll build you an app. And so that was sort of the intent. And so I was an opportunist because I could see the play and, saw it 11 years out when there was no even term for influencer and everyone thought I was mad. So, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. And so I've been validated by that. But I wanted to just get in, make some money, sell this thing and get out. And that was not a good enough why. It's not a good enough why. And I've learnt that. Because in all the other ways that I made money, it was actually an expression of strengths and passions. And even though I was interested in this area, I'm not a businessman, right? And like many people make the mistake of, they're a florist or they're a butcher or they're an illustrator. Then all of a sudden they turn it into a business, which is worthy. And now they're working in P&Ls and spreadsheets and they've hired everyone else who gets to do all the fun stuff, right, at the front line. rolling their sleeves up, and now they're running a business.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter what business it is, you're running a business, which isn't very sort of, it's
not glamorous.
No, but it just takes what made your heart sing, you disconnect from it. And so there's a sweet spot within most passions to get that. And I certainly didn't find that. I went for scale, for large, and I disconnected from the content creators and this beautiful craft and creativity. And sure enough, all I had to focus on after a while was the pain of it. Like your arms hurting, your back, all that was presenting, because my why wasn't driving me. It wasn't energizing me. My why should have been a mission, and it's, and I do have a vision around that, unlocking creativity, but it was, I got disconnected from it, and possibly I probably went into it, as I say, going, my next project's going to be the why, which is where I give back, and I do like the Reach Foundation, helping people, but for adults, for older individuals. And but this one I need to just make money.
Yeah.
And if you just, it's funny, those who go in search of wealth very rarely find it.
100%.
Well, that's one of the biggest lessons we've learned from just talking to people, because that's typically the common theme. You told a story, I know you've shared this before, but it is really, we found it really fascinating, and it's about, because it's the space we play in, but when you were on radio, just finding that new audience, which was social media, like at a time way back before it was the whole thing of, you've got an audience that love your radio and they listen each day, but they're not the same people that love your content, seeing behind the scenes. Can you talk to us a bit about that epiphany? If you know what I'm referring to.
Yeah, no, I do. Yeah, absolutely. It's not fully mine with everything. Sam Kavanagh, who was the first kid involved in the Reach Foundation with me when we were 15 years of age. When Jim and Paul went out and promoted at schools, first came to mind. Next one went to CBC in St Kilda. So, Sammy had, and I'll try to speed it up, but essentially, when I won that competition, I was offered, Channel 9, but I was also offered my own radio show. Whatever, they were just like, we'll just incubate you here, right, and teach you. What do you want to do? And I said, I want to do Reach on Air. And that was, I wanted to speak to interesting individuals and break down not what they've achieved, but how. Now, that is the basis of every single podcast you listen to today. But back then I was ramming it in between Nickelback and Pink, right? And so it was fucking hard.
Yeah.
And so we would interview adventurers and footballers and, entrepreneurs, etc. And so I was like, I need someone to produce this. And I can't just get a radio producer, otherwise they're just going to do fart gags and do you scrunch or fold type benchmark. So I was like,
that was my next question.
Yeah, scrunch. And so, I said, Sammy, what are you doing? And he was like, just finished a criminology degree. But I'd known through Reach as my mate, but we'd worked together. We'd done stuff like you two, right? We were inseparable in some ways. But he worked his ass off, right? He was just super smart. So he came in and did radio. He now runs Listener. Right, all of those podcasts are under his realm. But when I worked with him and we did Dash for a while, and we were just talking into a bucket really on air. I don't know if there was too many people listening, but it didn't matter again. So we did that, and then I said, I want to go and do Getaway. Like, I want to get into TV. And he said, well, I've just been offered a show on The Breakfast Show here. And we had Hamish and Andy helping us out as young guys, and they were far smarter and funnier. And so they got opportunities to do different things in the business. So he did The Breakfast Show, and then he ended up producing them, right? So for those years. And so by the time he brought me back to replace those guys after, 10, 12 years of doing the afternoon shift, and said, look, come back into the spot with Fifi Box, they had already had a lot of success around social media. And part of what he understood was, fans, not listeners, right? Because everyone in the radio world looked at, they were listeners, but they're not. They're just fans, and it doesn't matter how you connect with them. And so as I was, because I'd come from photography and I was always content-minded and TV was only visual, that was where I was sort of putting a pic of some random stunt that we were doing. Like, one of the blackout challenges was Fifi lifts it up and she's sitting in a romantic dungeon across from Chopper Reed.
The Chopper Reed?
Yeah.
Fuck.
And so, no one else is in the room but him.
Wow.
And so,
What was the first thing she did? Do you remember? That is ridiculous.
yeah, it was pretty. I mean, there was another one where, I completely fucked up, but she lifted up the blindfold and she was in bed with David Hasselhoff. He was meant to be sober at the time, but he was so drunk, whiskey on his breath, and Fifi was pregnant. It was just, and he was just sort of fondling her, and it was all sorts of, press the dump button on life. Yeah. So I would take a photo of Fifi's, because they'd film it, just screen grab the camera of her reaction with the chopper, and then I'd go caption this. And we would get like 10,000 comments, and it was brilliant. And then you'd publish the best ones. And so I was just doing this on social, and there was, Blake Phillips, a young bloke at the time. I would be perfecting everything. Don't backlight your shit photos. And he would post shit and it would go off. And I was like, oh, okay. So all of this production values of TV doesn't apply here. And he taught me, wow, okay, so you can be really scrappy and flawsome, as they call it now, which is like, be shitty around UGC. I built a whole business out of, all right, don't look like an ad. And people are more captivated. So the epiphany was there. It started to grow, and it became like one of the most engaged. There was certain periods where it was just outranking KFC and Cricket Australia and all these other social accounts. And then it started to become a bit of identity because people started to say in the radio world, hey, can you teach us how to do that for our show? And then I was sort of on stage talking about it. And then when, radio, I was like, oh, this is all a bit much. We were up in Sydney and we'd replaced Kyle and Jackie O. We were the first show to do that and it wasn't going so well. I was like, I think I just need to do something. Like, rather than be part of a network, I think I want to create my own. Yeah. And so the ambition was there. I had some money behind me. And I won't lie to you, 11 years on, I'm still in that tunnel. And I've realised that business is really tough and you've got to be really cautious about, again, where you spend your energy. And so my next phase of life really is about, getting that balance right.
I think it's time for the Bayford Ford Mystery Box Day.
Let's do the first.
Do you want to bring it in, Sammy, the first segment? Bayford Ford, thank you to you guys. Out in Epping, I don't know if you're... What kind of car you do drive, Jules?
Ford Everest.
Yeah. Well, isn't that fitting?
Well, next time when you're ready for an upgrade, just head out to our friends over in Epping, Jules, Bayford Ford. Bring the kids. They've got a beautiful cinema. They've got a showroom.
I didn't go to Bayford, but I went to another, and Ford was phenomenal. Yeah. And the experience of actually buying this Everest, I had a different car, more expensive car before that, and this car is better than I could have imagined.
There you go.
Mates of mine that travelled around Australia, they couldn't get their Everest in time, so they bought something else.
Well, before you read that, we do need to say a huge thank you to Bayford Ford. We do, if anybody is listening out there with that is in that market, you want to bring the kids for a nice Saturday, you can send them into the cinema room or the games room while you test drive cars.
There you go.
And I got to say, the Everest is effing great. Oh, like it seriously is.
I had a look at one,
we need to go for a test drive.
The Ranger is obviously got the tray. I don't have that. But it's it is the best car.
We need to all go there as a crew. And have a day out.
Yeah.
Well, you could be very entertained.
It's a seven seater.
All right, Jules,
what do you got there,
have you
Jules?
got in the mystery
guess
box?
who the seventh is?
You're coming with us.
He's in the alleyway. 2 truths and a lie.
Oh.
Okay.
Explain that.
Yeah, now, the whole idea of 2 truths and a lie, now this, we can cut this, by the way, if this doesn't work, but
do you want to pull out another one?
Yeah, you can pull out another one
Why?
if it's easier. But
You don't think I'm smart enough to come up with 3 things?
I had a crack at this early and I struggled, so...
That does not surprise
so
me.
2 truths and a lie.
Yeah, I'm the dumb one.
So we want we want you to come up with 3 statements, and Dos and I have to guess the lie.
Okay, done.
Right.
First one is I once talked myself across the border from Mexico to America. The next one is that I have a Southern Cross tattoo on my back. And the third one is that when I was younger, I owned 8 cats.
Oh,
I reckon the cats is the lie.
the cats is a lie.
Yeah.
You know why? I reckon when it's numbers, it's normally like he owned 9 or he owned 7. Do you want to lock in the cats?
I'm going C.
Let's
cats.
lock in C, cats.
I fucked it.
Yes.
Not only that, I did 2 lies and a truth.
All right, well, let's get the other lie. Yeah. What do you reckon? It's a Southern Cross or it's a...
I reckon he's got a Southern Cross tat.
Yeah. Do you reckon?
Yeah.
On his back. It could be on his ass.
Yeah.
Could be on his ass.
I'm
I
going...
reckon-
No.
I reckon he talked his way across the border. Oh, no, you choose. You lock
I'm
it
going...
in.
I reckon the border's the lie.
Wow. No, the Southern Cross tat is the lie.
Bugger.
I don't have a Southern... And the
I don't know why. I could just
The
picture
fact
it.
that you thought I did, no matter what nice thing you say to me before I leave, that at 3 a.m. tonight, I'll wake up thinking those guys think I would have a Southern Cross tattoo.
Well, do you know what will make it even sweeter, Jules?
What?
Is Bayford Ford is sending you home with some gifts today.
Oh, good.
Oh, well, there you go.
So when you ponder that thought,
Great.
3 in the morning, if you want to have a
Wonderful.
coffee in your new Bayford
Yeah.
Ford mug,
Everest?
travel
Or
mug,
the mug, yeah.
yeah, and we've got some more presents for you later on. So thank you for taking part in that, Jules. I wanted to ask the impact Jim has on you today. We've heard a lot what he's done in the past, but how often do you think about him?
Yeah,
To this
good
day.
question. Well, how about I show you my show and tell?
You want to do show and tell
okay.
now?
I think I should.
All right.
All right.
All right. To our
The
listeners.
reason being is because it links.
All right,
All
it
right,
links.
perfect.
It links. Just put it there for now.
Yeah, put it there, it's
So
all
we
right.
need to say another huge thank you. We don't normally do ads back to back, but
That's my fault.
Our good friends at Tour Edge have jumped on board. Jules, are you a golfer?
He doesn't know what they are.
We could have used those before in the alleyway. I'm not much of a golfer, no.
No. Okay. Well, if you were to be, this is why we love the Tour Edge and the 725 series, Jules, is because even you, as not a golfer, and myself, is
Well,
not a
they
huge
look
golfer,
amazing.
That's the point.
Yeah.
So if you're not the best golfer, at least you look the part
Yeah.
on the course, don't you, Dos?
Yeah, and they also, when you're playing with them, they bring that extra distance
Yep.
and precision without you feeling like you need to be on tour, which the everyday man can relate to, like myself.
Well, a lot of our listeners and viewers, they do love their golf. So the 725 series by Tour Edge, highly recommend you have a look.
And obviously on the socials, Tour Edge AU on Instagram, plenty of competitions and updates, so make sure you go follow them there.
Absolutely.
But,
Come a long way since I used to grab the putter and the 6 wedge off a hard rubbish collection and play with that down at East
must
Malvern
be
Golf
very
Course.
nice.
East Melbourne.
Yeah,
Yeah.
These look amazing.
They actually are beautiful
made
clubs.
by the guy out of Batman who's up. Is it? It's not Commissioner Gordon. Alfred.
Alfred.
Not
does-
Batman watches.
No, what's that?
Wait, I haven't seen Batman.
Well, every Batman. What do you mean?
Sammy's
Anyway, it's like a James Bond backup precision guys designed
Oh,
it.
Gotcha.
Yeah, nice.
Well, that's a very
Well, you
good-
went out to...
Yeah, I
to
went,
the
and
guys?
I went and had a chat to the boys down there, Aaron and Livy there, and they couldn't wait for this. So we're very excited. The show and tell, they've jumped on board, Jules. So you've been very kind to take part in this. And what we're doing is we're basically going back to kindergarten. It's the old, when you're 5 years old and you're told to bring in something of importance to you and share it.
What were you like
with
as
us
the
all.
as the kinder kid?
Cute.
Cute.
Those big blue eyes.
I
So
had white hair.
Yeah.
And then later
Snowy.
on in my life, tried to get it back.
The bleach.
the bleach, I've had
He's done that.
I've had that
Yeah.
phase too. They got stamped out by an ex-girlfriend. Anyway, so we'd love to know what you brought in today for us, and we'd just love to hear the story behind it.
All right.
Here we go.
I don't know how. How can I do that? Sam, can you bring it around?
Tell it, Sammy.
Yeah, just reveal it.
Reveal.
Reveal. Here comes a big reveal.
Oh.
Oh. Yeah, I agree, Sammy. I would be very careful.
Shit.
No, I reckon you could pick it up by the handles and put it here. I won't anyway.
Jared. Jared, do you want to give him a hand? Do you want
Oh, there's handles on it.
Yeah, just pick the handles up.
to pick the handles up, Sammy? I love this. I love this.
And then, yeah, move that other one. There you go.
Watch it!
Oh, Jesus. You got that, Bryce?
Oh, wow.
All right.
All right, here we go. This is incredible.
So, how about you guys describe it? for the people that are listening.
We're looking at, I almost want to call it a very high-end whiskey set. I don't know if we've got 6, whiskey Scotch glasses with what do you call that glass in the middle or the bottle in the middle?
Carafe? I don't know.
Yeah. And it looks like
Beautiful tray.
there's some football on each glass and the bottle in the middle. Is that like an embroidery or a shadow of Jim?
It's engraved.
Engraved.
Wow.
And what it says is,
He's giggling.
I'm giggling because this is the ugliest fucking thing you've ever seen. This is a whiskey set on top of wood, gold handles, and this is a gag that Jim did before he passed away. So when you got cancer and you're on your deathbed, material items, especially those that signify how great you were in your life, they actually mean fuck all. And that was his realisation. And he knows that I don't follow footy and I've never really liked footy and I don't drink whiskey. And he's given me the most fucking awkward, ugliest gift in the world, knowing that when he dies, I can't get rid of it.
Yeah, you can't.
Because it was a gift. So this sits in display in my house. And
Have you used it at all?
No. For what? I don't even drink. And he did this to his close friends, that when we produced his documentary, Every Heartbeat's True, the Jim Stynes story, me and his other best mate, who was a film director who founded the Reach Foundation, he got to sit there and watch his own eulogy, really, as he's dying. And for those who don't know, Jim Stynes was an AFL Brownlow medalist. He played 244 games without missing one, right? So, that's like 12 years and a demanding role in ruck. He busted his back, his fingers, and he was just this absolute giant of a man, but also just tough as nails, but with a heart of gold. He was a student of life, but also an amazing teacher. And, he found me at 15 years of age having a go at him at a school talk and in moments disarmed me. And I followed that poor prick around till he passed away, And literally for the first 8 years, I just followed him around. And just word for word, I'd write down as he would command audiences. I was just like, this guy's epic. And I would just learn from him. And, so by the time I was sort of 18, I was out there running workshops for year 12 students, 300 boys and girls. And I was like their age. And I'd go out there. He had just pushed my comfort zone so far out so quickly with nurturing and challenge and support. And, he'd hear my doubts or my critical nature, which is like, I fucked that up. And he'd go, yeah, you fucked that. Who cares? But let's go back out. And he'd get me back on the horse. And, as I get older, I realise that mentors, it's not like an uncle or an auntie or whatever. Most people don't have a good mentor. Like they might have somebody who looks out for them or whatever, but not like I had. I mean, it was just absurdly fortunate, And so, we'd produced this. And as I said, the content side, when I was taking him to all these appointments, we all thought he was going to live. But, he'd have his ass hanging out of the hospital gown and would be in stitches and laughing. And I'd be filming all this to the point where we had a documentary and we were able to sort of stitch it together. But, yeah, when he had watched the documentary and loved it, one of the things he did was he gave me and Paul and a whole heap of others just the ugliest, accolades that he's got. And they get worse than this.
Oh, geez, really?
It's a special memento of his sense of humour.
Yeah.
Right, which I think is pretty cool. And, look, I think about him a lot, like far more than I would like to admit, and I try not to cry. But, I think about him a lot. And I talk to him a lot. And I still feel him there. We had the full gamut today, haven't we?
No, and even you mentioning the materialistic element of it. Hearing you on another podcast talk about Jim in the light of, I didn't know he was the best man at your wedding, and hearing that actually, it surprised me. I was just like, wow, they were so close, and I didn't realise that. And I watched the doco, and I remember watching it you know, all those years ago, and I watched it again when it came out on Stan after the grand final, and every time gets me, you know. And
it's brutal. I was at Reach Ball the other night, and they played a section of it, and I just couldn't sit there. I had to go at the back.
But the part that you mentioned on this other podcast was around how busy he was, and the whole suit fitting thing. And me and D talked about that today, you know, and it takes something so. Just what happened for that realization of him to go, shit, nothing else matters, you know?
Yeah, and look, you know, this is the danger, you know, it is a real danger, I think maybe more so for men, but, you know, you can set goals and you can, just because you see potential in something that can be realised doesn't mean you've got to take it on. And, you know, I've learnt the hard way. I mean, I 13 years ago, I heard him on his deathbed saying, don't be addicted to busyness. Don't. And I still fucked it up. You know, I'm here, you know, I'm his age. I'm about to become older than him. And here I am burnt out. You know, like I can't even do you know, and this is deceiving with me being here right now, but you know, like I've really cooked myself. And, you know, to find myself here is, it's annoying. But thankfully, you know, it is a health scare in mine, but it's not a terminal one. And luckily I get to learn the lesson properly. And funnily enough, the lesson that I learned from Jim, which I didn't miss, was that I wasn't going to take on everything at the expense of my family and friends and everything. I just did it as well as, and that's why I'm cooked. Because I tried to do it all. Yeah. Be an amazing father, be an amazing son, brother, you know, and try to create a global empire. And turns out, and then do, you know, athleticism, and then just the body just went, nah, no chance.
So what, like, if you went back 20 years, like at the start of the journey of maybe even further, but going all the way back and you're about to embark and you know what's coming in terms of radio, TV, tribe, everything you're about to do, what would you do different, or would you not do anything differently?
Well, look, you know, as they say, even people that, you know, were in the Bali bombings and, you know, there's plenty of people that wouldn't change their actions because of who they've become. However, I would definitely not be so focused on the outcome and the goals. Because what you can do is you can be so fixated on that you can miss plenty of good moments. You're there, but you're not present. Yeah. And as I say, who I am now is great with all of those mistakes and everything. But I think the goal is to be able to be expressing a passion or a strength with as little effort as possible, and get paid as much as possible for it. Yeah. I mean, if I was to really get that balance right. Now, I know that seems weird about the payment, but, you know, wealth is really freedom to do what you want, when you want, with whoever you want, wherever you want, you know, whenever you want. Like, it's just like this. And that is where you can use money to make some, you know, really powerful choices. And, you know, I probably would have made those powerful choices. So, you know, I was able to get into that spot with radio and all those things. Maybe my time had come to an end anyway, but, you know, maybe I reached too far. And whilst, I don't know, it's a really good question, because the question of regret, and I've always said I'd rather live with debt than regret, and I got both now.
Well, you can always sell that thing.
Oh, don't worry. Cash converters on the corner there. Yeah, they offered me $16.50.
Sorry, Jim.
Yeah, sorry. He knew. He knew it was garbage. I'm not going to read out the plaque because it's a beautiful best and fairest type thing and named after someone who I don't know. You can Google that, boys. Something Jezelenko. No, joking. Joking. Regret is an interesting. I mean, it's a really good question, because I don't like to be cliched with any of these themes. Do I regret? Look, if I was ending now, yes. But since I can take all of those learnings and apply it to my greatest act, then no, I don't regret it. I just want to now transition into something far more impactful and generous to the world than getting them to buy toothpaste and fruit juice through influencers. You know, not to say, like, what we've paid out probably $45 million to everyday people. And I'm so glad that they're not people that think they're popular. You know, these are real everyday people that live with what I talk about, you know, their passion and they've found an audience. Because don't forget, you know, that's all I did through business and through the entertainment industry was, yes, while I picked myself, I needed executives, usually middle-aged men, to say, you're worthy, right?
Yeah.
And that's pretty fucking hard for a lot of people in this world. I'm a white guy from a good background. I fit the mold. But if you're different, which for many years people didn't get that opportunity, whether ethnicity, sexuality, you know, able-bodied, all of those things, they weren't given that. I was very privileged, right? So what I love about social is, hey, fuck them. Just pick your own audience. All you got to do is put your head down and offer value and it'll work. And a lot of people have done that. But many got obsessed with, you know, you get obsessed with chasing success through that. And many people have done what I've done, which is you can reach too far, become obsessed with the wrong goal.
Yeah. It's a totally different goal and chase with Tribe. Do you have getting investors? That's something I've never quite understood in business.
Yeah.
And,
well, I wouldn't like to do it again.
Okay. Yeah.
If I had my time again with that, I possibly would have.
How does that work, by the way?
Yeah. Well, you know, I had a great idea and I had the background and everything that I had touched, you know, was realised except for the pecs. And so I had some credibility. I had some money behind me so I didn't have to wait straight away. I could actually, you know, create something that they could really understand. And I captured it in a video, basically describing how the app would work. So basically, you know, I got some designs and I just had them as screen grabs or photos. And then as I'd press the button, you know, on the camera, like I'd press the button on my phone, then I'd just swipe the image to the next one and it just looked like it was an app. You can imagine?
Yeah.
And I just told the story of how, you know, we all love brands. Right, we genuinely do. We don't just like them. Like, you know, we're all wearing our Nikes.
Well, he's just been to Bali, actually, like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, Mikeys.
Yeah. They actually look quite real, I must
They
say.
do, yeah. Tell me that in 3 weeks.
Well, they're actually hurting my feet a little.
Yeah. There's no soles on them.
At least ours are real, Jules.
Yeah.
We've got the same colour too.
We do. So, you know, like whether it's clothing or, you know, hygiene products or flying overseas in Bali or, you know, restaurants we love or the beers, whatever. Like you've got 1,000 brands that we have chosen as a consumer over others. It was like, all right, you're going to post those anyway. You're going to go to a pub. You're going to go to, you know, you're wearing your Ray-Bans, you know, at the beach with your kids. So just tag them, right? It was sort of like that. Do your content as you usually would. If you're you know, you're cooking recipes and you're, you know, at home mum who's, you know, doing amazing lunches, using Glad Wrap, using, you know, like all that shit. So how do we unlock that? So that was sort of the essence of it. So I just captured that around Ray-Bans. Like here I am down at a, you know, beautiful beer garden with my wife, bought my new Ray-Bans and, you know, like there was a reflection shot. There was a photo that I would do anyway. It was just that the reflection of us was in my sunnies. And so we used that as an example and people went, fuck, that kind of makes sense, right? And I was able to describe, you know, the tectonic plates that are sort of converging, which create sort of both friction and opportunity. And, you know, I was able to forecast exactly what came to fruition. And so, you know, people that were like, we're going to back this and we'll give you some money.
And are they people you know? Or
sometimes they're people, yes and no.
Yeah, okay.
Not the main ones. I didn't know look, what I've learned hope to never really exploit again, because the education I got around Series A and Series B and traveling the globe and pitching to people and private equity and all this world, I don't particularly like it. I'm certainly not passionate about it. Back to the point around the business. I don't feel like my education in that world is going to hold me in good stead, because I don't want to do it, you know. I wanted to be around the creative. So, but once you get investors, it changes very quickly. And you don't want to get them, I say to a lot of startups, you know, until you have a really simple thing that money unlocks. But you don't want to be focusing on building all the dimensions of the building while you've got of the company, while you've got that ticking clock. Because they'll give you $1 million and you've got, I got 6 months, I'll hire people. If in that 6 months you aren't focusing exactly on, shit, I just need to advertise because everyone loves it, the product's perfect, you know, all of these things are working, I'm working well as a great culture and all that sort of stuff. If you take that money and in 6 months you're distracted by all the basic things that isn't particularly on the thing that gives you immediate growth, then the money runs out and you haven't got the growth. And now you've spent everyone's money and the company's over, which it isn't, because you go out there and say, no, I know we didn't hit our targets like we promised you, but this time if you give us $2 million, we will.
Yeah.
And then each time you do that, your equity gets less and less and less.
Yeah.
And so it's a weird thing. But, you know, in my next thing, I wouldn't do that because I want to go at my own pace. And so what you guys are doing, because you don't have the pressure of anyone and you're not spending too much, you're bootstrapping it. And bootstrapping things at your own time is refining everything. So that when you go, we've refined everything and now we just need to be able to get bigger here, then you would take investment.
It's funny, is we did have that chat probably a year ago.
Yeah.
So we got another arm, we won't bore everybody now with what that is, but we've got another arm of what we do.
Yeah.
That initially started generating some kind of money before we could put it, and that money we put into the show to build this side of things up. But we did think about that, going down that route.
Yeah,
but
I mean, it's tempting.
Yeah.
Because you're like, shit, I'm going to grow quick. And also the ego loves it. I mean, I've got hundreds of articles of me going, congratulations, Jules Lund's just raised 3 million, 5 million, 10 million. No one fucking celebrates getting a mortgage.
Yeah.
That's not me making money. That's me taking money and spending it.
Yeah.
Anyone can spend money. And so the ego of all of that is so backward, because I'm like in the financial review going, how good I've done. It's absurd.
Well, it's interesting with Tribe too, because like the whole almost getting rid of the middleman, because a lot of people know, like being the middleman is where the money's at for a lot of for some business models.
Yeah.
But especially in the space that we all play in, like the middleman, I think what was the term? It gets messy or we were talking about this earlier.
Yeah, I heard you talk about it, and it was basically radio might have been one of the examples. Oh, what was your friend's name that did the Nando's thing?
Oh, Tommy Jacket.
Tommy Jacket. You were explaining his situation, which was he went and did that on his own, made more money than probably he would have made working with a company or something
absolutely.
along those lines.
No, Tommy Jacket, another young bloke like you guys. He's not as young, but he's over there with his best mate, like you guys, who they ran the daily talk show and they did it every day for years, right? Every day, right, over an hour, which was, getting their craft up.
Amazing.
They're over there shooting a documentary on guns in the States and getting paid for the skills that they've got here, that all of you guys sort of have. Whether you're the front man or you're behind the scenes, right? You're all part of the same team, and that is a critical thing. For him, he had the goal of getting in radio and having the show to make the money, and the idea was, he would then be able to, create content for all of these brands. But he would need an agent that speaks to the sales team, that speaks to your boss, speaks to the producer, before he gets his cut. And I was like, for all that energy, mate, you could just literally go direct to these brands. Now, in those days, that didn't happen. They wouldn't take your calls. But now that you got proof and you can show, hey, listen, I can celebrate what you do in a really authentic way. And he was able to build a world for him, going to Nando's and shooting, behind the scenes videos about their culture, their staff, and was able to sort of get that cash and not have to share it as much. Never took investment, which was wise, because then that money comes to him and he can go and have the freedoms that many don't by growing too quick.
Do you feel in the creator space, and we've got quite a few friends and connections who are somewhat successful in the content creator world, they've asked us for advice, and we're not even probably a quarter of their social size, and purely from a how do I make money, or what do I do? And a lot of these guys are with either management or publicity agencies.
Yeah, but all that, it's all a bit.
I see that as
I've never had an agent that's got me work.
Okay.
Oh, well, actually, that's bullshit. But there were periods in my life where I felt like agents, you've got to create the draw card. You've got to bring people to you. But they don't go out there and source you work, but they are the first port of call to be able to hear an opportunity and turn it into something big, right? And so that's what I mean. I don't think they've gone out there and knocking on doors so much. I don't think that's their job, because they're playing a reactive game, a defensive game, in the sense that it's all coming to them, and they're just got to sort of navigate that and turn it into high yield. So all the stuff I've got, you've had to go out there. And so when you get an agent and stuff, it's probably like training wheels. It sort of could probably make you go, oh, I'm done. They'll do it for you. And it's better not having one and going, right, I'm the cold face here and I don't get anything without my work. That's the better attitude. And so they would be looking at you going, well, you're doing that. And look, it's tough. Like I got to say, the follower is dead, right? It is, that era of social media where you had followers, it's now the For You world.
Yeah.
And so that is serving you up information, not around people that you follow. And you get a little bit of that, but I mean, it's you'll be swimming against the current. What you've got to do, and what I've always said, because don't forget, even though I built Tribe, I was the most obsessed content creator. And when I was almost OCD about follower growth and engagement, my wife was having contractions and I was speaking to my content creator editor about a new cut.
Of course you were.
So this is where it got to. And I had to, that's where I said, I got to stop digging for gold and start selling shovels, right? Because this ain't good for me. Like I'm just like that crazy old gold prospector here. And I've now seen the world become that batshit crazy, intoxicated content creator that's forgotten the passion and expression, is now trying to hack the algorithm. Yeah. That's a bad game. So my point is, that's really tough now. And so what I've always said is like, how can you own your audience? And so subscribers on a podcast is a great example of that. And then actually I've always said the one where you have almost 100% ownership of your audience is an email newsletter. I mean, admittedly you got spam, but outside of that, it's really powerful. Or Patreon, where people sort of either pay for yours. It's tough though, still. But using social to serve it up or become viral, I don't know. There will be always the ones that break through. But again, that's like trying to catch lightning in a bottle. I don't advise it. Like every brand that's trying to go viral, it's like trying to become wealthy. As I said, those in search of virality very rarely find it. Yeah. Those who just go, you know what, I'm going to forget that. I'm just going to create. I'm going to create in the vision of what makes me feel good and that I would like to watch. And that's what builds audiences. So the best musicians aren't writing for audiences.
Yeah, yeah. It's
I just instantly thought of with my old man, and he had an events management business, and I just remember him always going on about the database. The database was everything, and I didn't quite understand.
Yeah. The database is, and then to be able, so community building that's the future, right? You have communities. And, there's Kevin Kelly and all sorts of 100 true fans or 1,000 true fans. And there's value in that. I've also seen people try that and not be able to monetize those fans. Like, they can have that. It doesn't necessarily mean there's a powerful business model. But the database really is your connection. And it's interesting to see how growth works when you're not trying to grow something. And that's, Luke Tunnicliffe, who you had on recently, he was in the early stages, I do this dodgeball every Sunday with the local community in the primary school gym. And it's really interesting to see how community builds and the ingredients required when it's not in a vocational setting.
Yeah.
And it's a really interesting, special thing to play with, because when it's organic, it's kind of really magical. And even if it's organic and then I try to monetize, I don't know what happens. Does it all just evaporate? If you demand too much of it, or you reap more than you sow.
Yeah.
But it's an interesting thing with you guys and how you navigate it from here, and whether you leave something not too monetized, or you don't try to push it too hard, and then you build the other things that are able to tolerate it. But I think your balance of ads and stuff is a fair exchange.
I was going to say, as you sit in between the two sponsored segments right now.
No, but I actually think, as I've always said, you guys play golf, you care about, like people drive cars. Like it's within the realms. And people used to say early on, influencers are so inauthentic. I'm not saying you guys are influencers, but I'm just using it. I'm like, fuck off. We grew up with hot models skinny dipping, drinking Pepsi, at night.
Yeah.
They were fucking actors and they weren't drinking Pepsi.
Yeah.
Like, don't come off about people who are doing stuff for money. They're doing the shit that they do and tipping a hat to the brands for money, but it doesn't take away or exploit the fact that we all express our love for brands anyway. It's not worse than where we've come from. That type of advertising was absolute bullshit and still is, and everyone accepts it. And same with all the fucking lies within every Women's Day or Women's Weekly, all that garbage.
Yeah.
Like, we've just accepted that the royals are breaking up again and now they're back together and then they're pregnant. No one ever goes back a month and goes, oh, you were wrong.
No.
Or 2 years and going, you were just serving us bullshit.
So true.
It's such an interesting conversation, because it's always not a fight with your morality, but like, that's one thing. And you mentioned like the Patreon stuff. So we made a conscious decision a while ago, because when we got to a level where we're like, okay, we have something we could potentially start monetizing. Do we go and start a Patreon and do exclusive content and blah, blah, blah? Or do we go to brands and hopefully give value to the brands and give value to the audience? And if they choose to go ahead, then, so we've never we give everything away for free to our audience. So there's nothing we've ever done that we've said, hey, you need to pay for this.
Yeah.
And instead, the route we decided to go down was, but again, that took time, because we had to build an audience that we could then go to brands with their hand on their heart and say, this is how many people listen or view, and this is what we can actually give back.
My biggest assumption with Tribe was that because it was logical and a fair exchange, that it was better than the existing models that were broken and shit. It made so much sense to me, and on paper, it's amazing what we created. It's just in every dimension of it, from brands to creators to us to the social platform, it's a better model than an agency model. And the agency model is, hey, you just give us the money, right, and we'll just do everything. Even though they're marking it up and it's all smoke and mirrors and it's all bullshit, brands just prefer that. Even though what we offer has got greater transparency and they know what they're spending and it's cheaper, it's faster, and they get higher content, we couldn't break that paradigm. So everyone, the agency model is what we do, and we try to do a tech model, right? So as an example, an Uber or a Airbnb, we were trying to be that for influencers, and we tried to zig when everyone else zagged, and I was like, mate, this is genius. In the end, even though there's broken models out there that people are used to, shit, I tell you what, innovation is overrated, because some people don't want to change even if it's busted, just because it's smart. And so my advice to you guys is, you're flogging stuff and doing that to the audience. Yes, there's Patreon and there's all these other ways you guys could be different, but the audience or the brands couldn't be fucked sometimes. They're just kind of fine with it. They're thinking it too hard, and so, yeah, it's not pure. Maybe there's better ways to do it, but maybe you just get the job done and you focus rather than on trying to reinvent the wheel. You just make sure the wheel's going in the right direction.
Yeah.
It's really true. Yeah. Because that's one thing we've constantly always thought is how do we make these different so it's not boring for the listener?
Yeah, so it's not just ad read,
Yeah.
ad read, and people press skip. All right, let's try and incorporate it with a fun-ish segment, something like, again, that's invaluable to us. I mean, for you to bring that in and talk about it, that makes people aren't skipping that. People
He's
hope.
pointing to the whiskey.
Yeah,
glass.
well, I was going to say
It's audio, mate.
Yeah. Well, I was about to say, and if you're listening, head over to YouTube to have a look at the whiskey collection there. See.
And subscribe while you're there. Yeah.
Yeah, but mate, do you have anything else you want to cover off with Jules before we give out the goodies?
Oh, yeah, the goodies.
The goodies. Now,
Well, that's why I'm here.
Yeah, that's why we're here. Well, let's start with the milkman. So Sammy's going to bring out the milkman. Dos loves the milkman, so you're going to talk about that. So just a little present for you, Jules.
So the Milkman, they're a leader in men's grooming products. So you'll be receiving Milkman's natural deodorant.
Great.
And the fragrance, men's fragrance. So
It's a hot day. I get the point.
yeah, I can smell you from here.
Yeah.
It keep you nice and fresh, Jules.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Head to milkmanaustralia.com to check out all their amazing products too. And then, of course, we've got the dos&d goodie bag, which is just a few presents on behalf of our wonderful partners and friends. So there's a few goodies in there. You've got some Musashi protein bars for the drive home, mate. Got some
awesome.
Perfect for after dodgeball on Sunday.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. You've got the...
There's a lot of stuff in here. Thank you, lads.
Well, there's Tour Edge, there's Ford, there's Fleet Plan Hire,
Awesome.
which people would have heard throughout this podcast.
So convenient, too, that Cash Converters is only 40 metres away.
you mongrel.
But Jules, mate, thank you so much for...
New sponsor.
Cash
You know
Converters.
that, mate. You're all over the freaking footy ads at the moment. So
We want to say a big thank you
Yeah.
because, like you said, like in your emails, it does say you're taking time off at the moment. So we do appreciate you taking the time to come out here and take on the junkie out there for us.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. But how do we find Tribe? How do we find yourself on socials?
Find it on, I'm all over socials, although I'm having a bit of a hiatus at the moment, but at Jules Lund on socials and at Tribe on most of the socials. And look, the reason I do this is because young people like yourselves that are having a swing is awesome. And actually not waiting for the rewards, like just actually doing the work is the most admirable part of what you guys do. Like being just consistent and applying yourselves and being generous. You deserve success. As I say, and as we've learnt today, success may not be this one being the big one, but this is the most phenomenal training ground. And I guarantee no matter when you're successful or not, these will be the best days of your career.
100%.
Yeah.
Couldn't agree more.
thank you for those lovely words, mate. That's really nice.
Let's have some whiskey.
Yeah, let's do it. Thanks for joining us, Jules.